The Enticer is one of Brent's best-kept secrets. This fly has been around for many years. It breathes very well and flashes when it pulsates under tension. Brent will share some history of this fly at the end of the video.
Well, good day, folks, and welcome to another segment on the bench. Today I'm going to tie you up Brent's Enticer. This is a fly that I tied many, many years ago, and it's a very simplistic tie, but it's one of the easiest ties I've done, but it's actually probably one of the most efficient. This little fly here will pulsate in the water. You get the hackle kind of coming back over this rabbit. It breathes better than any material I know of, and makes a great tail and a collar, basically a little ice sub in the center. And this little bug just kind of pulsates in water like a little flashlight. It blinks, if you will, for lack of a better term. So I kind of come up with the idea when I got my Norvise, and I thought, well, I'll try some different stuff. And boy, I stumbled on a pretty good deal here. I'm going to be using a 1530 size 6. I've got the whole box of these ready to go. I've got 100 of them I'm going to do, and then I got the beads already on them. Just kind of shorten up my prep time. When you tie commercially or whatever, you kind of shorten up, do step tying is what you do. We'll talk about that sometime too if anyone's interested in commercial tying, or if you have any questions, send them to me. Okay, we're going to dress the shank here with their 6/0 red thread. I'll come in here with some of this crosscut rabbit. Now here's I buy them all in strips already done. So here's the, just to show you how there's the pelt, and it's cut crossways off the pelt where the zonkers are cut straight down. So the hair lies differently, and it actually works pretty good, a little bit better. You can use zonkers too, don't get me wrong, but I like it the way it comes off here because the tips are all straight, and you get nice even tips on it there. So I'm going to tie in some guard hairs at the back here for the tail. Then we'll come in with some small green wire here. You can use any color you want. This fly is tied in lots of different colors and sizes. You can just run away with your imagination on whatever you want to do in a different species. I've fished this in different sizes, and you name it. It's just basically a concept of a technique and just a basic pattern. Well, we're going to dub our ice dub body on here. And I don't want it really tight and like a nice loose wrap body on that, so it gets lots of ice dub poking through. Then we'll just tie the wire off, rib it forward and tie it off. Take a half hitch in there behind the bead, and then we'll bring our table in here. Don't have a table, get yourself some dubbing brush wire. This is very small, fine wire. You can put that on a bobbin if you want. You can actually tie with it and do dubbing loops. You watch some of the tips and techniques, I'll do some of that for you too. So like I said, any questions you have, please just send them our way, okay? So nice thing about when you're doing these strips like so is I'm going to be looking for, I like the hair with the nice marked guard hairs on the end there, and I'm going to cut it about halfway back. I don't need the entire length of that, and you don't really need that much hair on there to get a nice hackle, because we're not wrapping any of the hide. I'm getting rid of the hide so I can get a little more hair on there without taking any room on my pattern. Little flies like this, you want to save as much room as you can, and I'm just going to preen this back, have it all wrapped in wire rope. The dubbing brush really is what I've got here. So, and I'll tie that off right behind the bead head. Make sure you pull that wire right in tight behind the bead, and we'll come in behind the bead. You can use colors to match or contrasting colors, wherever you want to do it. I'll use this little red. I kind of like the looks of that. Then I'll bring in finish it, why don't we just bring in a little solar edge? You can put your head cement, whatever you want, right on right now. It's a good way of doing it when you're working with hair and hackle sometimes. Then it'll run right in where it belongs. So I've got my fly cemented there.
Brent, what was the concept of the Enticer?
Well, the Enticer kind of came along quite innocently. Like I mentioned, when I got my Norvise, I started playing around with it, doing some of these dubbing brushes and so forth. And I always liked rabbit, the way it breathed in the water. It was a great material, and I tied up this simple little fly that has really surprised me, and it still is today. We just keep.
How do you know if your fly is going to be a great producer?
To me, with a top producer, I look at flies after I create them and or try different materials or whatever. And I've had a lot of times I have a fly on the vise looks really good, and then you get it in the water and it doesn't swim right or something's gone awry. So um, we don't need all the bells and whistles on some of these flies to encourage these fish to really be on them. And the Enticer is one of those flies that just breathes so well. It just it's when it's under tension, they got the hair covering up the bright body, and when it's not under tension, when you're pulsating it, hand twisting it in lakes or 4-inch poles or whatever you're doing, or even drifting in a current, there's always movement. And I always say when movement means life and life means food, and these trout or any species will eat it. It's been a great fly.
You said that you had some good responses for the Enticer from a couple of anglers that you would like to share.
Yes, I've had a couple interesting stories. I knew when I started fishing Enticer, it worked pretty good for me, and I was quite happy with it. And then I had the opportunity to have John Randolph come and fish with me for a week, and he was a fellow I really looked up to. I read the Fly Fisherman magazine religiously. I just and started fly fishing. It had everything in there you wanted, and John was a great gentleman. I was a real pleasure to meet with him. Actually, his family came over in the Mayflower, so that's how long they've been in America. And he was just an interesting gentleman that's been all around the globe, and we had some good times. We fished for a week together, or just about, I think it was 5 days. And anyway, we were sitting there going to have lunch one day, and in the drift boat near one of our lakes, and I said, John, you want to try this fly? I've been fishing it. It's been working pretty good. Would you like to try it? And he said, well, tie it on. Why? What do we got to lose? So I tied it on, figured we'd fished after lunch, and he just had it hanging over the side of the boat. Anyway, he caught 5 nice big rainbows while he's having his sandwich. So he thought he had a whole new technique. He said, you don't need no fancy hand twists and all this stuff. He said, just hang her over the edge and they'll eat it. But it just attests to the fly, how it breathes in the water. And like I say, the fish are all over it. It's so simple that it's overlooked by many.
You mentioned that this fly also works well for other species.
I had another friend that I knew that he was going to critique this fly. I was looking for some really good response and what he would see. He understands materials really well. He ties really small little flies. This guy's a stream specialist, and he ties classic salmon flies. He's one of them guys that can just it's a piece of work. It's an art, the way these guys tie these classics. And my friend's name was Ron Anderson out of Calgary. And I tied up, after I knew these trout flies were working pretty good, I tied some up in salmon colors, and I sent him a bunch. And I said, Ron, do you mind just swimming these flies and see what, how they look to you and critique them for me? Anyway, when he got back home, he got a hold of me and he says, yeah, you want a little feedback on those bugs? And he said, don't change a thing. I said, really? He said, no. He said, you can't believe how these steelhead were on them. He said, I had the one that he liked the best on that trip particularly was just a little black. And I'll show you these flies. And he said, I was going in, I was the last guy in the pool every time. He said, there was 4 or 5 of us on the trip. And he said, he caught way more than all those guys combined. It was a story I couldn't hardly believe, but coming from Ron, I know he was telling it to me, giving it to me straight.
Brent, would you like to show us some of these other enticers?
Yeah, I'd be happy to show you some of these flies. Here, we'll give you some the color combinations and some that we're using for, let's say, trout and salmon. Just to kind of give you a bit of an idea. And we've also tied these in large sizes, so you're going to see a lot more videos and these flies coming your way. So I do appreciate your interest in this, and I'll go a little close-ups here on the flies, and we'll show them to you. Well, it's always nice to know a little more about the bugs we're talking about, so I'm just going to go over them real quickly with you. The one I just tied on the bench here, of course, was pretty typical of a trout fly that I would use. Change that in different colors, and that works just great. Here was I believe this is the first enticer that we fished, and this one I tied on John Randolph, the one I was telling about the little story. So there it is, just as simple as you can get, just all open, all the way through. Now, this is a surprise. This is the one that Ron Anderson liked, or had the most success with up there. Steelhead were eating this little guy right there. Nothing more than that. Now, when we get up to see the steelhead and salmon colors, well, you can see, you can blend, you can put two tones in there. You'll see this one has actually got a different type of hair. You can get some of those with the tips dyed differently on the patch. You can see the tail, how you can use all kinds of hair. You got all kinds of options out there now. These fly manufacturers are dying. They're doing all kinds of cool things. You can do a two-tone, actually three colors, and there's yellow, orange, and red on that fly right there. A volcano or whatever you want to call it. Here's one I would use for steelhead for sure. Real nice big bright pink head. You got some purple body and black, and it's a great color combination. Another great color you want, a lot of folks don't know about it. It's getting a little more popular, but is white. Steelhead love white. And my wife found that out years ago. We were doing really well with it. She picked a white one out of the box. That goes back a long time ago, and I mentioned it to some of my steelhead buddies, and they couldn't believe it, but I'd see there's a lot of white steelhead flies out there now, so it's gaining. But you got to get the word out. People know. Here's a cone head on one. Nice little pink and white. And here's a big nasty guy right here. Nice big hook. You can fish anything you want with that. Chums or schnook. Big salmon will be all over this. And you tie them in coho colors and all that as well. But it's been a great fly.
Thanks for joining us today with our fly guy Brent Schlenker. Check out his new videos on Brent's YouTube channel and Sport Fishing on the Fly.